The massive celestial ship appeared in Earth's sky without warning. It hovered above New York City, its gleaming silver hull reflecting sunlight like a second moon. People stood in streets, pointing upward, some afraid, others curious. Inside the United Nations building, Ambassador John Miller adjusted his tie and took a deep breath. At 45, with salt and pepper hair and steady brown eyes, John had handled many difficult situations in his diplomatic career. But meeting aliens, this was new territory. "They're ready for us," said his assistant, Pam. John nodded. "Let's make history." The meeting room fell silent as the doors opened. 6 tall, blue-skinned beings entered. Their movements were graceful, almost floating. 5 of them wore silver uniforms, but the one in the center wore flowing robes of deep purple. This was Queen Silara of the Celestial Empire. She stood nearly 7 feet tall. Her skin was blue like the deepest ocean, with small, shimmering scales that caught the light. Her eyes were large, completely violet with no whites, and her head was crowned with what looked like crystal formations instead of hair. John stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Queen Silara, on behalf of Earth, welcome. I am Ambassador John Miller." Queen Silara tilted her head, studying him. When she spoke, her voice was musical. "Ambassador Miller, after watching your world for decades, it is good to finally meet." The news that aliens had been watching Earth caused whispers among the human delegation, but John kept his focus on the Queen. "We have much to learn from each other," he said. "Indeed." Silara smiled. Her teeth were pearly white, almost too perfect. "My people have studied your art, your music, your literature. Humans create with such passion. It is fascinating." Over the next several hours, they discussed the basics of a diplomatic relationship. The Celestials offered advanced medical knowledge in exchange for Earth music and art. They seemed especially interested in human creativity. During a break, John found himself alone with Queen Silara by a window overlooking the city. "Your world is very loud," she said. "On our homeworld, cities are quiet places." "Too noisy for you?" John asked. "No, I find it alive." She looked at him with those strange violet eyes. "You are not afraid of us." It wasn't a question, but John answered anyway. "Should I be?" Queen Silara laughed. It sounded like wind chimes. "Most species fear what they do not understand. Yet you approach us with curiosity instead of fear." "That's the best way to learn," John said. "I agree." She touched the window glass. "My advisors said humans were too primitive for meaningful exchange." I disagreed. "That is why I came personally." John raised an eyebrow. "And what do you think now?" "I think my instincts were correct. There is something special about humans." She turned to face him directly. "Ambassador Miller, would you be my official guide to Earth culture? I wish to understand humans better." Behind the Queen, John noticed one of her guards frowning. Clearly, not all Celestials shared their Queen's interest in humans. "It would be my honor," John replied. As the first day of meetings ended, John watched the Celestial delegation return to their ship. Queen Silara had been nothing like he expected. She was intelligent, curious, and surprisingly warm for a being so alien. What John didn't know was that Queen Silara was watching him too. Among all the humans she had observed that day, something about Ambassador John Miller had caught her attention. He had an honesty in his eyes that she rarely saw among her own people. Neither of them realized that this first meeting would change both their worlds forever. 6 months passed since the Celestials arrived on Earth. What began as formal meetings had grown into the largest cultural exchange program in human history. Schools around the world now offered classes in Celestial language, and Celestial art exhibitions drew massive crowds. At the center of it all were Queen Silara and Ambassador John Miller. "What is this called again?" Queen Silara asked, holding a dripping ice cream cone. They sat on a bench in Central Park, surrounded by 4 Celestial guards who kept a respectful distance. "Rocky Road," John replied, enjoying his own cone. "What do you think?" Silara took another bite, her violet eyes widening. Sweet and cold, and crunchy. We have nothing like this at home. She laughed as a drop landed on her hand. So messy. Wonderful. John smiled. Over the past months, he had shown her museums in Paris, waterfalls in Brazil, and small towns across America. The powerful alien queen had tried pizza in Chicago, watched sunset over the Grand Canyon, and learned to skip stones across a lake. With each new experience, she seemed to come alive in a different way. Your world has such variety, she said, finishing her ice cream. On my homeworld, everything is efficient, beautiful, but planned. Nothing is allowed to just grow wild like this. She gestured at the park around them. Don't you ever get tired of being queen? John asked. Silara looked at him, surprised by the personal question. Then she smiled slightly. Every day. But it is who I am. Later that week, aboard the celestial mothership, Admiral Zorx paced before the Royal Council. This has gone far enough, he said, his blue skin darkened with anger. The Queen spends more time with humans than with her own people. She even eats their food now. Council member Loren nodded. Her interest in humans exceeds diplomatic necessity. Especially this Ambassador Miller, Zorix continued. She requested him specifically as her guide, and now they are rarely apart. On the viewing screen, they watched footage of Silara and John at a baseball game, the Queen attempting to eat a hot dog while John laughed beside her. Disgraceful, muttered Zorix. The Queen of the Celestial Empire should not be seen like this. We must remember, said Elder Tovin, the oldest council member, that Queen Silara's methods have always been unconventional. Yet she has led our people well. This is different, Zorix insisted. These humans are primitive and dangerous. Their history is filled with violence. We should be studying them, not embracing their culture. Meanwhile, on Earth, problems were brewing too. Not everyone welcomed the alien visitors. John and Silara walked out of a concert hall when someone shouted from across the street. Go home, space freaks. Earth for humans. A small group of protesters had gathered, holding signs with anti-alien messages. Police quickly moved to keep them back. I apologize for that, John said as they entered their car. Silara seemed unfazed. Every species has those who fear the unknown. Even among my people, there are those who think this cultural exchange is a mistake. Like Admiral Zorix? John asked. He had noticed how the Admiral looked at him during official functions. Silara nodded. Zorix is traditional. He believes Celestials should keep to themselves. She looked out the window at the city lights. But I believe isolation leads to stagnation. Both our peoples have much to teach each other. As they drove through the night, John found himself studying her profile. In the glow of passing streetlights, Silara looked almost human, despite her blue skin and crystal crown. He was surprised to realize how comfortable he felt with her now. What neither of them knew was that Admiral Zorix had just received permission from the Council to increase surveillance on their queen and her human companion. The Admiral was convinced something inappropriate was developing. Something that could threaten the future of the Celestial Empire. A year had passed since first contact. The leaves were turning golden as John drove Queen Silara to his cabin by Lake Michigan. After months of official functions and public appearances, they had both needed a break. The small wooden cabin sat alone at the edge of the forest. Its back porch faced the vast lake, where the setting sun painted the water orange and pink. It's so peaceful, Silara said, breathing in the cool autumn air. Without her formal robes and crystal crown, dressed instead in simple earth clothes, she looked almost like a tall, blue-skinned human woman. My grandfather built this place, John explained as he lit a fire in the stone fireplace. It's nothing fancy, but it's been my escape for years. They prepared dinner together. John had been surprised to learn that Silara enjoyed cooking. On my world, royalty never enters a kitchen, she had told him once. That's why I find it so freeing. Over dinner, they talked about things they rarely discussed in official settings. "Do Celestials fall in love?" John asked, pouring wine for himself and fruit juice for her. Silara looked into her glass. "Yes, but not royal ones. Queens take mates for political reasons, to strengthen alliances or bloodlines." She paused. "I have never had the luxury of choosing based on personal feelings." "That sounds lonely," John said quietly. "What about you?" she asked. "You never speak of family." John's face grew sad. "My wife died 8 years ago. Cancer. We had no children." He stared into the fire. "After that, I threw myself into work." Silara reached across the table and touched his hand. Her skin was cooler than human temperature, but soft. "I am sorry for your loss." Later, they sat on the porch watching stars appear over the lake. John pointed out constellations while Silara told him which ones contained worlds her people had visited. "Sometimes I forget you're from another planet," John said. "Then you say something like, 'We have colonies in the Orion Nebula.' And reality hits me again." Silara smiled. "Is that good or bad?" "Good," he said. "Definitely good." The moment was interrupted by the sudden roar of engines. Bright lights swept across the trees as 3 black SUVs pulled up to the cabin. John immediately stood. "Something's wrong." 6 men in dark clothing jumped out, carrying weapons. They weren't police or military. Their movements were too disorganized. "Human supremacists," John whispered, recognizing the symbols on their jackets. He reached for his phone. "We need to call." The first shots shattered the cabin windows. John pushed Silara to the ground as bullets splintered the wood around them. "Down to the dock," he said. "There's a boat." They crawled across the porch as more shots rang out. John reached for the dock railing when pain exploded in his shoulder. He fell, clutching the wound. "John." Silara pulled him behind a boat rack for cover. "I'm okay," he gasped, though blood soaked his shirt. Suddenly, a brilliant blue light flooded the area. The celestial guards who always monitored their queen from orbit had arrived, their weapons making short work of the attackers. Hours later, in the medical bay of the celestial ship, John woke to find Silara beside his bed. The ship's technology had already healed his wound, leaving only a faint mark. "You could have been killed because of me," she said, her face lined with worry. "I'd do it again," John replied without thinking. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Silara's violet eyes searched his, and slowly she leaned down and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was gentle, uncertain, but it changed everything. When they finally pulled apart, both knew they had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. "This is impossible," Silara whispered, though she didn't move away. "I know," John said, reaching up to touch her face. "But here we are anyway." Neither saw Admiral Zorix watching from the doorway, his face dark with fury as he witnessed the forbidden kiss between the celestial queen and a human. Dr. Lisa Garcia rubbed her tired eyes and stared at the screen again. For the 5th time, she ran the analysis. For the 5th time, she got the same impossible result. "This can't be right," she muttered to herself in the empty lab. The clock on the wall showed 3:18 a.m. Lisa was Earth's top xenobiologist. When the Celestials arrived, she had been given rare samples of their DNA to study. For months, she had analyzed the alien genetic code, mapping similarities and differences with human DNA. Tonight, she had discovered something that changed everything. She picked up her phone and dialed. "Sir, it's Dr. Garcia. I need to speak with Ambassador Miller immediately." The next morning, John entered Lisa's lab. "This better be important, Doctor. I had to cancel a meeting with. Human and celestial DNA are compatible." Lisa interrupted, pushing a tablet toward him. John stared at her. "What do you mean, compatible?" Lisa pointed to the screen. "Look at these base sequences. They should be completely different. We evolved on different planets. But they're not. At a fundamental level, Our DNA shares a common structure. That's impossible, John said. That's what I thought, Lisa replied. The only explanation is that both our species were engineered by the same creator. John felt dizzy. Are you saying humans and celestials were made by the same? What? God? Aliens? I'm saying someone or something manipulated our genetic code in the distant past. The same someone. John thought of his kiss with Silara 3 weeks ago. After the attack at the cabin, the Celestial Council had ordered her back to their mothership. He had only seen her at formal meetings since, both of them pretending nothing had changed. Does this mean? He began, not sure how to ask. Lisa understood. Theoretically, yes. Reproduction between humans and celestials might be possible. Meanwhile, aboard the celestial ship, Queen Silara was having a similar conversation with her medical officer. These findings were classified by Admiral Orcs. The young celestial doctor said nervously, "But I believe you should know, Your Majesty." Silara studied the report. Why would the Admiral hide this? The implications are troubling to traditionalists, the doctor explained. If we share origins with humans, many of our beliefs must be reconsidered. That night, Silara's personal shuttle landed on a remote beach. John was waiting. As her message had asked, "I've missed you," he said simply when she stepped out. Silara touched his face. "And I you." They walked along the moonlit shore, both carrying the same secret knowledge. "Did your scientists discover it too?" John finally asked. Silara nodded. Zorix tried to hide it, but yes. They stopped walking, facing each other in the silver light. "What does this mean for us?" John asked. Instead of answering, Silara kissed him. This time there was no hesitation, no uncertainty. When they finally parted, she whispered, "It means we have tonight." In the weeks that followed, they met in secret, sometimes at John's apartment, sometimes in hidden corners of the world. Both knew the danger, but neither could stay away. Admiral Zorix grew increasingly suspicious. He placed trackers on the Queen's shuttle, but she found ways to disable them. He assigned more guards, but she evaded them. "The Queen is hiding something," Zorix told the Council. "Her behavior is erratic. I fear the human influence has corrupted her judgment." Elder Tovin frowned. "Careful, Admiral. You speak of our Queen." "I speak of the safety of our empire," Zorix replied coldly. Back on Earth, in her lab, Dr. Lisa Garcia made another discovery. The genetic compatibility went deeper than she first thought. Under certain conditions, human and celestial cells could combine and grow. "Reproduction is definitely possible," she told John when he visited. "Difficult, but possible." John nodded, his expression unreadable. He didn't tell Lisa that this information came too late. He didn't tell her about the message he had received from Silara that morning. The Queen was already pregnant with his child. The United Galactic Summit was held in Geneva's massive new space center. Representatives from 7 alien civilizations had gathered with Earth's leaders to discuss trade, technology, and peace. It was the most important meeting in human history. Queen Silara sat at the center table, wearing her full royal regalia. Her crystal crown caught the light as she spoke about resource sharing. Admiral Zorix stood behind her, his face stern as always. John watched from the human section, trying to keep his expression neutral. They hadn't spoken privately in 2 weeks. The pregnancy was still their secret, though Silara had seemed different lately, more tired, her blue skin slightly paler. The Celestial Empire offers medical technology in exchange for Earth's cultural archives, Silara was saying when she suddenly stopped mid-sentence. The room fell silent. The Queen closed her eyes for a moment, then stood up straight. "Before we continue, I have an announcement to make." Her voice rang through the hall with unusual force. "I am pregnant by a human." The room exploded into chaos. Alien delegates jumped to their feet. Translators struggled to keep up, and cameras flashed wildly. The celestial delegation looked horrified. Admiral Zorix's face darkened with rage. "Your Majesty, This is not the place. It is exactly the place. Solara cut him off, her voice firm. What happens today will change the future of both our peoples. All eyes turned to the human delegation, searching for the father. John stood slowly, his heart pounding. Ambassador Miller, gasped Earth's Secretary General. Is it you? Before John could answer, Admiral Zorix drew his weapon. This abomination cannot be allowed. The royal bloodline has been pure for 10,000 years. Security forces instantly surrounded him, but Zorix spoke into his wrist communicator. Attention all celestial forces. The Queen has been compromised. Enact protocol purification. Outside, the massive celestial mothership's lights changed from blue to red. Smaller ships began to launch. He's staging a coup, Solara said, remarkably calm. She turned to the other alien delegates. Admiral Zorix fears what this child represents. Proof that our species are more connected than we've been led to believe. Dr. Lisa Garcia pushed through the crowd to reach them. The Queen is right. My research proves humans and celestials share engineered DNA markers. We were created by the same beings. Lies, shouted Zorix. The doctor is clearly working with the humans to undermine our empire. The Secretary General tried to restore order. Everyone, please. This is a diplomatic summit, not a battlefield. But outside, celestial ships were surrounding the building. On screens around the room, news reports showed similar ships taking position above major Earth cities. Zorix smiled coldly. You have a choice, Your Majesty. Return to our ship and end this pregnancy, or watch as we demonstrate our power to these humans. Solara's face showed no fear. You forget, Admiral, that I am still your queen. The fleet answers to me. Not anymore, he replied. The council voted while you were busy with your human pet. I now command our forces. John moved to Solara's side. You'll have to go through me first. Zorix laughed. Gladly, human. Before he could raise his weapon again, the lights in the building flickered. A strange rumbling shook the floor. The screen showing news reports suddenly went blank, then displayed the same message in every human and alien language. The child must live. Everyone stared in confusion. Even Zorix looked uncertain. Elder Tuvin, the oldest celestial present, fell to his knees. The Creators speak, he whispered, his voice trembling. After all these millennia, they have returned. Suddenly, all communication devices activated at once. The same message played everywhere, in every language. Protect the Queen. Protect the child. The next evolution begins. In the chaos that followed, John grabbed Solara's hand. We need to get you somewhere safe. They slipped out a side door as fighting broke out between Zorix's supporters and those loyal to the Queen. The future of two worlds now depended on their escape. Hold on, John yelled as their small ship dodged laser fire. Queen Solara gripped her seat, her other hand protectively covering her stomach. 3 weeks had passed since their escape from Earth. They were now fugitives, hunted by Admiral Zorix's fleet across the solar system. We can't keep running forever, said Dr. Lisa Garcia from the navigation console. The xenobiologist had joined their escape, bringing crucial medical knowledge about Solara's unprecedented pregnancy. We don't need forever, Solara replied, just long enough to reach the Nomari. The Nomari were an ancient, peaceful species known for their advanced medical knowledge. Their homeworld lay 2 star systems away, through a jump point near Jupiter. Zorix has ships waiting at the jump point, said Captain Susan Hayes, the human pilot who had volunteered to help them. Susan was an old friend of John's, and one of the few humans trained to fly alien spacecraft. Then we'll have to find another way, John said, studying the star charts. Solara suddenly gasped, doubling over in pain. What's wrong? John rushed to her side. The baby, she whispered. It's growing faster than expected. Dr. Garcia ran a medical scanner over the Queen's body. The pregnancy is accelerating. We need to reach medical facilities soon. Susan pointed to a small moon on the display. There's an abandoned mining outpost on Europa. We can hide there. Regroup. They landed on Europa's icy surface hours later. The old human mining base was cold and dark, but its thick walls blocked scanners. While Susan worked to restore power, Lisa examined Silara more thoroughly. The fetus is developing normally, just faster than either human or celestial standards, she explained. And look at this brain activity. She showed them the scanner display, where intense energy patterns pulsed. I've never seen anything like it. That night, as Silara rested, John sat with Elder Tuvan. The old celestial had chosen to join them rather than support Zorex's coup. There is something I must tell you, Tuvan said quietly. Something forbidden. John leaned closer. I'm listening. Long ago, before our recorded history, the Celestials and humans were one people. Tuvan's voice was barely above a whisper. We were created by beings we called the Shapers. But we were separated, placed on different worlds, our memories erased. Why? John asked. The Shapers were conducting an experiment. They wanted to see how the same species would develop in different environments. And now our child threatens that experiment, John realized. Tuvan nodded. Or completes it. Before they could discuss further, Susan burst into the room. Ships approaching. Celestial signatures. They ran to the control room. On the screens, 5 celestial warships descended toward Europa. How did they find us? Lisa asked. It doesn't matter, John said. We need to leave now. As they prepared to flee, the communication system suddenly activated. An image appeared on screen, not Admiral Zorex, but a delegation of Nomari. The Nomari were tall, slender beings with translucent skin that revealed shifting colors beneath. Their leader spoke in a melodic voice. Queen Silara, Ambassador Miller, we have been searching for you. How did you know we needed help? John asked. The Nomari leader's skin pulsed with gentle blue light. We received a signal. From your child. Everyone turned to look at Silara's stomach. The baby sent a signal. Lisa asked, stunned. The child is more than you realize. The Nomari said. It is the key to ancient knowledge, the bridge between worlds that were never meant to be separated. Outside, the celestial ships had landed. Troops would be breaching the base soon. Can you help us? Silara asked. The Nomari nodded. Our ships await on the dark side of Europa. If you can reach us, we will take you to our world where the child can be born safely. Susan turned to the controls. I can get us there, but we'll have to fight our way out. John grabbed a weapon. Then we fight. As alarms blared warning of the base being breached, they moved toward the exit, ready to make their desperate run for freedom and the future of their unborn child. The Nomari medical chamber glowed with soft blue light. Queen Silara lay on a crystal bed, her face tight with pain. John held her hand, his knuckles white with tension. The child comes, said the Nomari healer, her translucent skin pulsing with colors. Earlier than expected. 3 weeks had passed since their desperate escape from Europa. Admiral Zorex's forces had nearly captured them, but the Nomari ships arrived just in time, creating a strange energy field that confused the celestial sensors long enough for them to escape. Now, on the distant Nomari homeworld, the moment had arrived. You can do this, John whispered to Silara. We're going to meet our child. Dr. Garcia monitored strange instruments the Nomari had provided. The baby's vital signs are strong, but unusual. Unusual how? John asked. Before Lisa could answer, Silara cried out. The lights in the chamber flickered, and every electronic device in the room surged with power. It's time, the Nomari healer said. What followed was unlike any birth human or celestial had witnessed. The room filled with a gentle, pulsing light that seemed to come from Silara herself. When the baby finally arrived, everyone gasped. The child had pale blue skin, lighter than Silara's, but definitely not human-colored. Small, delicate crystal formations lined the baby's forehead like a natural crown. But the eyes were human, with John's deep brown color. "A girl," the no-marry healer announced, placing the infant in Silora's arms. "She's perfect," John whispered, touching his daughter's tiny hand. The moment was interrupted by alarms. On the screens, a fleet of celestial warships appeared in orbit. "Zorx found us," Lisa said. The lead no-marry entered the chamber. "We cannot fight them. Our people are peaceful." John looked down at his newborn daughter, then at Silora. "I'll surrender myself. Maybe that will satisfy Zorx." "No," Silora said firmly. "We face this together." Before anyone could respond, the baby made a small sound, not a cry, but almost like a musical note. Suddenly, all the screens in the room displayed the same message in all languages. "Bring them to the temple." The no-marry leader's skin flashed with colors of surprise. The ancient temple. It has been sealed for millennia. On the screens, they watched as Admiral Zorx's forces landed. The admiral himself led troops toward the medical facility, weapons ready. Following the mysterious instruction, they carried the baby to the ancient temple, a massive crystal structure at the center of the no-marry city. As they approached, sealed doors that hadn't opened in thousands of years slid apart. They entered a vast chamber just as Zorx and his soldiers caught up to them. "Hand over the abomination," Zorx demanded, aiming his weapon at the baby. John stepped in front of his family. "She's not an abomination. She's the future." "The future should be pure," Zorx snarled, "not contaminated by human weakness." Suddenly, the baby made that strange musical sound again. The temple's crystals began to glow, pulsing with light in rhythm with the infant's heartbeat. A beam of energy shot from the ceiling, surrounding the child. When it touched Zorx and his soldiers, they froze. Then something remarkable happened. Every person in the room, human, celestial, no-marry, felt a sudden connection to each other's minds. They could feel each other's thoughts, memories, and emotions. Zorx dropped to his knees, his weapon clattering to the floor. Tears streamed down his blue face as he experienced John's love for Silora, Silora's hope for peace, and the centuries of wisdom the no-marry had gathered. I understand now," he whispered. The baby's glow spread throughout the temple, then to the city beyond, connecting all minds in a moment of perfect understanding. When it faded, Zorx looked up at Silora and John with new eyes. "The Shapers didn't separate us as punishment. They were waiting for us to find our way back together. And our daughter is the bridge," Silora said softly. John looked around at humans, celestials, and no-marry, all forever changed by what they had experienced. "Not just a bridge," he said, smiling at his daughter. "A new beginning."